What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here for the second BFR of the preseason. This was preseason game 2 versus the St. Louis Blues at 7:30 on October 1st. This video was supposed to go out yesterday. However, I was really busy yesterday, so I'm doing both yesterday's BFR and today's BFR today. I'll be doing game 3 after this, so we'll get to there. So overall, St. Louis came out and they played pretty well. The lineups for Chicago were as followed. On the first line, you had Alex DeBrincat, Tyler Johnson, and Patrick Kane. On the second line, you had Lucas Reichel, Jonathan Toews, and Brandon Hagel. On the third line, you had Alex Nylander, Dylan Strome, and Ryan Carpenter. And on the fourth line, you had Poor, Reese Johnson, and Osipov, all three minor leaguers. So you had two Johnsons in the lineup, so that's funny. On the first defensive pair, you had McCabe and Seth Jones, so we got to see his look. On the second pairing, we got Dahan and Caleb Jones, and then on the third pairing, we had the Hawks' first-round pick, Nolan Allen and Ian Mitchell. And their goaltending was split between Fleury, so he got his first appearance, and Delia. And the goaltenders for St. Louis were Binnington and Ellis. The first period, Johnson was physical early. He looked Tyler Johnson. The Hawks were playing sloppy, however. St. Louis had full control for the first 5 minutes, maybe. Kane was there was a penalty at 16-13 on Ivan Barbashev for cross-checking. Fleury was sharp early, and the power play looked good, but on the power play, Kane wasn't on the power play. At first, there was rumors that he had a skate issue, but I did some research, and turns out he actually cut his hand on a skate. And he had to go into the locker room. He bandaged it up, and he got right back out there. So that was scary for a few minutes. And if you already have starting the season without Kane, you're not going to be as good as you would otherwise. They killed the first penalty. Then you had on 12:46 there was a penalty on Nolan Allen for cross-checking, and at 11:32 there was a penalty on DeBrincat for tripping. They would kill both penalties, so there was a 5-on-3 for a while, so they would kill them both. However, the first goal would be scored by St. Louis. It was Nathan Todd from Kaspic and Torachenko to make it 1-0 at 9:06. There was a fight between St. Louis's Luce versus Reese Johnson, and Johnson had been he'd be getting hit and stuff, and he was just standing up for his teammates, and he's had enough of it. There was a couple fights this period. And then Carpenter and McCabe, I thought, looked good. I made note at that time. And DeBrincat almost connects on a breakaway. Great save by Binnington. In the second period, we had I forgot to mention at the last 4 minutes and 30 seconds, the Hawks looked good in the first period. And then there was also a fight between Osipov and Kaspic. That was the end of the first period in the last 20 seconds. And it was at St. Louis was getting very physical, and they had already hit Reese Johnson. He smacked the boards. He was lucky he didn't get a penalty for it, and it should have been a penalty, but they didn't do it, and I don't know why they didn't do it, but it was a penalty and it wasn't called. Then they hit Poor on the fourth line, and then Osipov answered the call. So there was the second fight of that period. And then to start the second period at 16:49, there was a St. Louis penalty on Buchnevich for tripping. They would kill that penalty. There was also a penalty at 10:21 on Kaspic for a face-off violation, which I had personally never seen before. I couldn't believe that actually happened. At 9:46, however, on that penalty kill, there was a shorthanded goal by Buchnevich. It was a one-timer from Braden Shen to make it 2-0 St. Louis. However, on that same penalty kill or Hawks power play, at 9:07, there was a power play goal from Alex DeBrincat from Chicago, from Tyler Johnson and Kane to make it 2-1. And then Delia comes in at 7 minutes left in the second period, and then with 5:15 to go in the period, there was a goal from St. Louis's Robert Thomas, assisted by Falk and Neighbors. Neighbors had a good game, I will say, as someone who was watching. Neighbors had a pretty good game, and he might have made a statement for him to crack the St. Louis lineup next year. He had, I think, 3 points on the night. So they made it 3-1. And then before the end of the period at 1:10, there was a goal from Chicago's Caleb Jones from DeBrincat to make it 3-2. And entering the third period, before the third period started for Chicago, the Chicago side, announcer Pat Foley said prior to the season that he'd be retiring at the end of the season. So he was discussing about the broadcasting and how it's going to work this year. There are going to be certain guests that come in. They're going to have auditions to get the full-time job to take Pat Foley's place. And yeah, they were just talking about that, and I just want to make note of that for any people who watch NBC Sports Chicago or just the Hawks channel in general. As for me, it's channel 200, so we're going to miss Pat Foley at the end of the year. But he's been doing this for about 40 years, and we'll see we'll see what happens. At 16-16, there was a penalty to Chicago. It was on Osipov for cross-checking. But at 14:43, they would score. St. Louis would score on that power play. It was Barbashev from Buchnevich and Bolduc to make it 4-2. St. Louis was dominating play at this point. Reichel and Hagel, however, almost connected. St. Louis was playing very physical in that third period. They were doing pretty well at keeping the Hawks and frustrating the Hawks off the puck. And then Kyle Clifford gave Hagel a whack, and Tays had some words for some of the St. Louis players. So it was good to see Tays sticking up for Hagel there. Like, it was a full-on whack on the back of his leg. It went uncalled, but then at 5:25, St. Louis would score. It'd be Vladimir Tarasenko from Robert Thomas and Jake Neighbors to make it 5-2. And then at 4:02, Chicago would score, and it'd be Ryan Carpenter from Dylan Strome and Calvin DeHaan. And then in the last few, and then with an empty net, Chicago would empty the net around 2 minutes to go, and St. Louis would score. It'd be Jake Neighbors, who already had 2 assists on the night, and from Robert Thomas and Tarasenko. So that would be the last tally and the last thing I took note of. The score was 6-3 in favor of St. Louis. Shots were 40-27 to St. Louis. Hawks only had like 2 shots in the first 10 minutes of that third period, and it was brutal. The power play, both St. Louis and Chicago went 1 for 3, and yeah, it was a good game for St. Louis. But we'll see how Chicago. We'll talk about how Chicago responds in the next game, as it wasn't televised. So I'll mention it again when I do the next video right after this. But we'll see how Chicago responded to this. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.